What is going on, guys? This is Zach again, coming to you live from the basement where I am going to be set up until next week when I return back home to Medellin. Again, it's going to be a good time, and new things are going to come on the channel as we continue to grow and start this out on this adventure. Today, we're going to talk about Copa Colombia and the last 2 days worth of events, with this focus, of course, on El Poderoso de la Montaña, Independiente Medellin. First and foremost, let's start out with the first game of the week, which was Santa Fe versus Deportivo Periera. This was not a great game. I think a lot of people are going to think, well, Santa Fe was at home and they should have won through this game. But really, at the end of the day, this was a pretty defensive battle. But more than a defensive battle, I think it was just two bad teams maybe playing each other. And that's not to say Santa Fe and Deportivo Pereira are bad teams. They're not. They're in the playoff race. But they were not at their best. So the game looked pretty sloppy, right down to possession. Possession was split 50-50. There was lots of attacks by Periera early on, but the shots were just not falling. And I don't think that it was a matter of goalies playing well. I think that this was everything. Every shot taken on goal was either wide left, wide right, or up over the bar. The plays were breaking down, things like that. So I just at the end of the day, I think it was a bad outing by both teams. It was slop. Let's be honest. Everybody tried to give that game away. That's a saying here in the United States. We didn't want to win, so we were trying to let you win, but you couldn't capitalize on it either. And at the end of the day, we just fell apart. But on the plus side of that, it was a tie, 0-0. And if you like penalty kicks, there's a storm of brewing where it might be potential for that this coming, I think Wednesday is when they play again. If Pereira ties with Santa Fe again, they go to penalty because somebody's got to move on. But as it stands right now, whoever wins the next game in Pereira, by the way, will move on, and we'll get to predictions a little bit later. All right, so the primetime game 2 days ago now, at the time of recording this, was Nacional versus Rionegro. The Aguilas were at home in Rionegro, but let's be honest, anytime that Rionegro plays Independiente Medellin or Nacional, it's more of a home game for the opposing team, which, to be honest, is kind of got to be defeating because Rionegro's got a very nice, it's a smaller stadium, but at the end of the day, people come up there and because it's close by. It's kind of like I go see Medellin when they play Envigado. Spoiler alert, this was a 3-0 win by Nacional. And to be honest with you guys, I'm shocked. Rionegro is at the top of the league right now for regular season standings, and I absolutely expected them to win this game. Maybe a tie. I thought maybe, we get like a 2-2 or a 2-1 in favor of the Aguilas, but unfortunately, that just wasn't meant to be. Rionegro controlled 51% of the time, so it wasn't that they were being not aggressive, but there were bad passes and shot attempts, and every time it seemed that they were in front of Nacional's goalie, who, by the way, played a great game. They just couldn't finish, and so in the 37th minute, Juan Felipe Aguirre had a header in for the first goal of the game. There was close to a second one, but it was called offsides. So going into the second half, you had, again, I just want to point out that Nacional's goalkeeper is pretty amazing. He did a very good job against Independiente Medellin. And if it wasn't for that header that we had, we probably would have tied. But the play of the night really was Robert Maya in minute 63, lined up from the halfway point of the field and just booted it, and it sailed past the goalie. That put him up 2-0, which at that point, you start for the next round, you start losing a little bit of confidence because it's so much harder for people to overcome a 2 goal deficit to get to that magic 3 number goal deficit. And that's if you skunk them. Like if Nacional scores in the first half, well, that's a problem. So, you know, it was looking 2-0 for a long time, but then extra time hit, and there was a 4-minute extra time. And in the third minute of extra time, Nacional just had this chaotic play where everybody was bouncing the ball off of each other. I would have lost track of the ball. You'd lose track of the ball on television too, just simply looking at it. And there was it was just a good goal. Sailed past in extra time, and it was just bad luck for Rionegro. Now that said, and we'll get into this a little bit later. This probably sealed the fate of the Aguilas. I don't see a scenario in which Rionegro can come back from that to advance in the next round of the tournament. They'd have to score 4 goals to Nacional's 0. Maybe if they skunk them 3-0, maybe, but Rionegro is not that team. Like their goal differential is usually 1 or 2 on average, and so I just don't see him scoring 3 goals, especially on Nacional at Nacional Stadium. So hopefully, maybe I'm wrong, but at the end of the day, this is good news for Nacional, bad news for everybody here. So that was that game, and let's take a look at the Millonarios versus Alonzo Petrolea. All right, so we're going to skip a game because we're going to end on Independiente Medellin because this is an Independiente Medellin podcast. But let's talk Millonarios versus Alianza Petrolea. Now, this game took place in Bogota, and this was a very special game for the Millonarios. Their coach, Gamero, this is his 200th game at the helm of the Millonarios. He has been a force for them. They have won the championship last season. And they're constantly in the mix. The Millonarios are a great team. Now, we can complain about that and say things like, well, it's because they have the most money, or, oh, it's because, this, that, and the other. And all of those things are true, right? But you can't take away longevity, right? You're only as good as your coach and as your players execute said plays and what is needed. And I think Gamero is a really well-respected name in Colombia as far as coaching goes and in Categoria Primera in general. So much love to him. Congratulations on your 200th game. Millonarios, pretty chippy performance, but like at the end of the day, they just dominated. 26-minute first goal by Leonardo Castro of the Millonarios. This is his 3rd goal in the Copa. He leads the league in Copa for Copa Colombia goals. It was all Millonarios. So 59% of the time, the Millonarios had possession of the ball. They ran a little bit slower of an offense. They're not quite as explosive. Second goal occurred about 13 minutes later. Minute 41, Edgar Guerrera, which was his 6th professional goal. The kid's doing really well for being a rookie and just getting out there. Millonarios weren't alone. Alianza attacked 7 times, but just couldn't get anything going. Now, that being said, the Millonarios goalie, when pressured, played a hell of a game. I thought he made some really good saves, including a couple Air Jordan jumps that puts LeBron James and Kobe Bryant to shame. But he definitely did protect the goal, and they wanted to come away with a win today. I think they wanted it more than Alianza did. That said, Alianza got very frustrated towards the end. We had a red card in minute 78. Alfonso Chimera, he actually had a double yellow, which equaled the red. One for a bad slide and then one for barking at the ref, and that's 2 yellows and hit the road, Jack. So that was pretty much all she wrote for Alianza. Millonarios almost scored a 3rd goal off the left post. To be a fun fact, they are the only home team in the quarterfinal for this round that won a game. The rest of the home teams lost. I do think this is the end for Alianza. We'll talk more about that a little bit later. But yeah, hats off to the Millonarios. They did a great job. They beat a team that maybe, is there's nothing wrong with being in the final eight teams. I just think that Alianza looked like a team that maybe shouldn't be here, and so there you have it. And yeah, the hats off to the Millionarios. And of course, we save our team for last. The main event played at 6 o'clock yesterday. We went on before the Millonarios match, but Independiente Medellin versus Cúcuta Deportivo. And I have been told that I do not pronounce Cúcuta right. I'm probably still not. Sorry to the great people from that region, but Santander. But we will just be keeping them moving. Game was played at Cúcuta's. Now I'm second guessing myself in Cúcuta's stadium, which, by the way, I've never seen that stadium before, mainly because we don't play them a lot, but I thought that it was a nice stadium for being out there. Medellin debuted in Copa Colombia, the new blue and pinks, which I'm currently wearing. They looked pretty good, to be honest. I remember saying that this was a win and it was a sure win. And in true Medellin fashion, we played like a caliber team again. We talked about that last time. We were playing a team that was inferior to us. And at the end of the day, we played better, or we played worse than we probably should have. I'm looking at stats right now. We dominated 60%, almost 60%, 58% of possession. I don't know how that didn't translate to more goals. Medellin had a couple things against them. For one, we were on our third string goalie because Mosquera went down at the beginning of the year, but our other guy was unavailable tonight. So we had our third string goalie, who I actually thought did really well. That said, like the reason I predicted this is because in the last 5 games, we've had 1 tie and 4 wins against Cúcuta, and I don't think that that's any way that we could really lose this game or this round for that matter. Cúcuta did come out swinging, so it was close goals. They had 4 attempts on goal early on. They wanted to win this game, but they knew that I think Cúcuta knew that the only way they could win this game is if they came out, punched us as hard as they could, and see if they could catch us off guard, and then make Medellin play catch up, which is historically when we play pretty sloppy. But our goalie, I mean, my God, we had a great outstretch to save a goal. I can't, this third string kid, I don't have his name in front of me, but he's a good kid and he played really hard for us. And I was kind of apprehensive because, Mosquera went down at the beginning of the year. So he's not playing this season. And then our second string came in, and like now we're on our third string goalie. And usually when you start getting injuries or players unavailable, that translates to losses. And I really thought that that's what was going to happen tonight. And it could have easily went Cúcuta's way if their plan would have worked, and they would have gotten a goal early on. Maybe Medellin starts doubting themselves, doesn't play right. That said, I think our coach really did a good job of staying the course. But the story of the game is Luis Pons again. He was everywhere in this game and absolutely solidified himself as captain on our team. He had a ton of shots on goal in the first and second half. He had it was very close towards the end of the first half, I think, where Pons attacked on the left side, and Cúcuta's goalie had like the most insane save I've seen in a long time. Second half, more of the same. We didn't really, I felt like we didn't play with a sense of urgency. I mean, we did attack, right? But I think we knew that we had possession. And so I don't think there was that sense of urgency that like we normally have when we play like bigger opponents like your Millionarios or Juniors or Nacional or whomever, right? I don't think that I just would have liked to have seen us play a little bit more urgent. And because I mean, again, this is Copa Colombia. Like if something happens where, we win this game 1-0, in the 87th minute, Luis Pons scored a fantastic goal. Again, being the MVP that I think he might be, just dominating these games. And him and Moreno really, I think, control the tempo of these games. But yeah, we're 1-0. And if we'd have played with a little bit more urgency, maybe we have that cushion. Because like what happens if we don't score like especially like with this team, like we scored in the 87th minute. This was almost a tie. Like I don't. This was not victory was not assured for Independiente Medellin starting out and going into this game, and we look like we might walk away with a tie, but. 87 minute, Luis Pons scored the goal, and now we're up a goal going into the next game, which will be at the stadium here in Medellin, which means the stadium's going to have back-to-back nights of games, one for Nacional and one for El Poderoso. We are probably going to try to go to that if I get back in time, but yeah, it's going to be something else. So. As it stands right now, Santa Fe and Periera are tied 0-0. So whoever wins next game, it's a heads up. They will be playing in Periera. Nacional is going to play the Rionegro Águilas in Medellin. Millionarios are going to play in Alonzo Petrolea, which I'm not quite sure how that happened. And then Independiente Medellin moves on to play Cúcuta one more time, and will also be at home. So with these games, I don't put a whole lot of stock into Copa Colombia. You put two teams against each other, they're going to play each other tough, and I think that you can't really tell a lot. A lot of people are probably going to react to that Nacional win over Rionegro and have a lot of hot takes like, "Oh, Rionegro's not anything. Like this could totally be Nacional, or this could totally be something that we upset." And I just don't take that away. I think Aguilas had a bad night. It happens to the best teams. And, unfortunately, it happened on a night where it matters. And, we're going to have that. And I think there's just, as you get later in these tournaments, like everybody's fighting to get into the Final Four. The cream rises to the crop, right? Like, I just think like, Perea and Alianzo, like no offense to either of those teams or any hinchas that might find this, but I just don't see these guys being that good. So I just, I think they're going to get eliminated. Let's go through predictions real quick. So Santa Fe versus Perea, there's no goal differential. So whoever wins, it's a heads up. I'm going to take Perea because I think Santa Fe is not playing very well right now, but that could go either way. So I mean, take that with a grain of salt. I'll say 1-0 Perea. But I could be wrong. Next game, Nacional versus Rionegro Águilas Dorados. I'm going to take Rionegro, but I don't think that they overcome the goal deficit. I think it might be 2-0, 2-1 towards Rionegro, but I just don't think that they overcome a 3-goal deficit. And so I just don't see a situation in which they move on. Now, they've played very well all year. I've been predicting their downfall since their streaks. Since they reached the top of the table, they have not hit that yet. So I might be wrong, and hey, more power to you. I'm not hating on you guys. Millionarios versus Alianza. Alianza Petrolea is cooked. The Millionarios are the Millionarios. Alianza Petrolea is Alianza Petrolea. They're not a bad team. They're fighting to keep that last spot, get in the playoffs, but I think they're sitting at 7 right now, if I remember correctly. And I just think that they're not going to make it. I think this is where the story ends. Either way, I don't think they're going up 3 goals on the Millionarios. Maybe they tie, but like that's on the outside chance of possibility. So I'm going to take the Millionarios moving on. I'll give them a goal, but I'll say probably 3-1 Millionarios. And then lastly, we have Independiente Medellin versus Cúcuta Deportivo. I think that Medellin at home wins this game handily. I'm going to give them 2-0. Could easily be 3. I think we skunk them. But yeah, I think your Final Four as it stands right now. I'm going to give it to Perea, even though it could be Santa Fe. So let's say Perea, Nacional, the Millonarios, and Independiente Medellin. And if you're the last 4 teams, that's good company to be with. Those are names that you want to be mentioned with. I think a lot of people are going to say, well, Medellin's just fighting to get in the Final Four and can't win. But I think Medellin can. I really do. I think I think our coach is finally just learning the game and being aggressive, and really just I think the team's gelling. We've had a lot of new additions, some substitutions, some injuries, and I think like right now we're just playing our best football, and that's where you want to be going into something like this. Um, so that's who I have as the final four: Perea, Nacional, the Millionarios, and Independiente Medellin. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be right. Santa Fe might upset. That might be the only thing out there. Um, I think Independiente Medellin could go. But at the same time, like I want to get matched up against Nacional, and if it's for Copa Colombia, holy shit, like the city's gonna shut down. So I kind of want to see these guys. I'm interested to see how this shakes up. Um, yeah, I do think that's pretty much your final four, and we'll see how it splits out. So I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. So that's going to wrap us up for today, guys. It's pretty. Copa Colombia is a little bit different than the games that play in the league. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on these. I think it was good to run through them and kind of talk about what I saw. And as we continue growing this channel, we've got some really exciting things coming up. We are going to add co-hosts both in English and in Spanish, so this will be coming to you in two languages. And we're also going to start an audio only feed. So we have some plans to really grow the channel. It's just going to take some time. We got to get some people set up. I got to talk to people. But for now, we're just going to keep putting out episodes after games, and we'll hit you with post-game analysis, if you want to call it that. I do think going forward that, if you guys do want to be involved, even if it's just like, hey, I'd like to come on and talk about the team one time, we can do special episodes. We can do things like that. But, I think like this is a process. So what it is today is the bare minimum. We're gonna talk about games. We're gonna show a little bit of highlights. We're gonna do things like that. But as we grow the channel, I do think it's going to eventually like take off and get more and more complex. And like with that, I need fan engagement. So like if you want to come on and talk about the team, I'd love to have you guys on and talk about the team. If that's not your cup of tea and you just want to listen, hey, share the message. I don't want money from this. I just want to talk about the team and have some fun doing it. So, just send it to your friends. Be like, hey, here's this crazy gringo who loves our team. Like, check him out. And as we go forward, we'll have English and Spanish episodes, which I'm really excited to bring the Spanish episodes, even though I'll be involved in that, but somebody else might lead it because Spanish is my second language, right? So sometimes I say stupid things or non-grammatically correct things, or I just lose the words. It's completely normal. Probably like most of you if you're speaking English and you're Colombian watching this. But that being said, guys, we're going to bring this video to a close. I will put my contact information in the description. If you do want to be involved, please, please, please do reach out. And I look forward to talking to you guys. Take care, and vamos Poderoso.